Hi, this is Mr. New, and welcome to another episode of Illustrator CS5 for East Career and Technical Academy. In this episode, we're going to be covering Live Trace and Live Paint. I'm going to be working with a number of images that I've actually picked up from another instructor. Kudos to them. You will want to find a few on the internet to follow along with. You'll need a photograph, a pencil sketch, and a couple of pieces of clip art, and that should basically get you through this project. First one is color tracing. Go ahead and double click on that. Let's open that up into Illustrator. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pull this out, make this a little bit more full screen. And Command 0. There we go. With this, we basically have a sunflower. Wouldn't it be kind of cool if we had an actual photograph that's a raster graphic and turn it into a vector graphic? Well, that's exactly what we're going to be doing. Let's zoom in on the top flower here, and we'll keep the instructions off to the side so we can see exactly what we're going to be doing. First thing we want to do is we need to live trace this image with a 16 color setting. So once I click and select this object, I can go up here next to Live Trace on the little pull down tab and come down to 16 color. So what's actually happening is it's tracing the adjustments. Okay, so now we have our image, and right now it's still a raster graphic, but there's a couple things we can do. One is that what if we would like to use these same colors in our swatch palette? We can go over to tracing options and we can click on output to swatches. So that means all 16 of these colors are now going to be put in my swatches palette, and then I'm going to go ahead and trace that image. The image traced is, once again, still raster graphic. If we expand by clicking on the expand button in our toolbar, it now becomes a series of paths and anchor points. All the little blue dots are anchor points. If I click off, you notice it still looks the same, but as I hover over it, all of these paths and anchor points show up. Let's go ahead and save that. We'll just save it back to our desktop, replace the old one. And let's close that. We'll open up the next. This is expand tracing. Let's go ahead and open this up. And once again, let's make this full screen. Now on this one, what I want to be able to do is I want to take this pencil sketch that has been scanned into the computer, and I want to turn it into a vector graphic as well, but I want to clean up the lines. I don't want it to look like a pencil sketch anymore. So I go ahead and click on and select that image. I'm going to click on the live trace, but this time I'm going to go to comic art. Now notice it cleaned it up a little bit, but we still have a lot of rough edges out here. So the next thing I want to do is I want to change my threshold to 250. That's going to darken that up just a little bit more. Hit enter, and now see those lines are now cleaning up quite nicely. Right now, just to kind of prove my point that it is still raster graphic and not vector, if I go up under view and view the outline, notice that my object disappears. But if I click on expand, the image comes back as anchor points and paths. Let's go back to view and look at it preview mode. So there's our lines again. So I'm going to get my direct selection tool. We're going to click on the area outside of the box. And right now the fill is white. We want the fill to be none. So if I click over here on the fill color and click on the little red slash, that basically takes away any fill. And now I'm going to go ahead and grab my regular selection tool again, select my object, and I'm going to go to Object, Path, and Simplify. What this does is it's going to allow us, I'll slide this out of the way so we can see both at the same time. This is going to allow us to simplify the number of paths and anchor points that makes up this image. And it will also help us minimize the number of anchor points used. So let's go ahead and click on Preview. So at 50%, it doesn't look like our image. This is not what we want. But notice we went from 1,748 points to 503. If I pull this up to about 90%, it's going to look about right. There's 90. And now it looks a lot better. It looks like the original piece of art we had. And notice that it went from 1748 to 957. So it saved us almost 800 points just by simplifying. So go ahead and hit OK. We click off the object, we can see it now. And now going back to our direct select tool, we can clean up some of the stray anchor points that we don't want and some of the stray lines. So let's zoom in nice and tight on this. So if I click, I can just delete and get rid of some of these. In fact, I'm going to zoom in on that area a little bit tighter. There we go. So if I click on this one here, I can delete that. And basically we can go around and clean up stray points that really kind of make this look bad. So I would actually do this all the way around my image. We'll do maybe a couple of more. So just by deleting, they're gone. And that's how we clean this up. We won't do the whole image. We'll leave it right here. There we go. Let's go ahead and zoom back out. And that is how we would clean up an image for Live Trace. Let's go ahead and save that one. Command S. Let's go to the next one, number 3. Let's go ahead and open this one up. And I'll zoom in on the top space shuttle. What basically happens oftentimes is if we do pencil sketches on paper and scan it in, our pencil sketch style is going to be very similar. We may want to build our own preset that will work with every pencil sketch that we do personally. So let's go ahead and show how that works. First, I'll go ahead and select on this image, and I'm going to use the Live Trace as we did before, only this time we're going to go with the default setting. So our default is in, and then we want to open up our options dialog box. The first thing we want to do is we want to set our threshold. This time we're going to set it to 200, and we want to click strokes on. Let's go ahead and take a look at our preview too while we're at it. We'll preview it as we go. Okay, so far it's looking pretty good. We're going to change our maximum stroke weight to 40 points, and then we're going to change our path fitting to 4, and that should be about right. We're going to go back up. Didn't mean to close that box. And now what we want to do is we want to save the preset. So I'm going to click Save Preset, and we're going to change this to Pencil Sketch, and let's go ahead and trace it while we're at it. And now to show that it actually created our preset, let's go ahead up to Object, Live Trace, Release, and now it went back to our original Space Shuttle sketch. If we now go to the pull-down menu next to Live Trace, Pencil Sketch is the last thing we have there. If I click on it, it restores the image to the preset we just created. Okay, let's go ahead and save that one, and we'll close that. And moving on to number 4. Now this is going to be a live paint sample, and we will zoom in. Now that we've created our image, we've cleaned it up, we're ready to actually go on and fill it in with colors. So let's go ahead and select our box. We're going to go over to the side here. See, we have the Shape Builder tool. If I hold my button down, there's another tool underneath there that's called the Live Paint Bucket. If I click on the Live Paint Bucket and let go, notice it says click to make a live paint group. So if I click anywhere on the background, I get a message that it's going to convert it to a live paint group, okay? And now it's ready to be colored in. As I hover my bucket over different parts of this image, it highlights. That means that's going to be filled with the color that's in that little box over the bucket. Okay, so if I go up here and choose a color, and then as I move my arrow across, the bucket changes colors as well. I can also open up my swatches panel on the right-hand side, and you'll see as I click through these, that also clicks through as well. So let's go ahead and start adding some color. We'll go with a red bow. So it looks like a coloring book. We just click on it, and it colors it in. And we might want to zoom in more to make sure we don't color outside the lines. Let's go with yellow paper. And we'll alternate between blue and green polka dots. And we can also zoom in and get really close to fill in some of these areas where the path was not quite closed up. So let me zoom in a little bit here. And notice we do not have black color, so we're going to go ahead and add some more color to our swatches. So if we click on the lower left of our swatches palette, we have a swatch library menu. In the swatch library menu, we can actually choose any number of libraries that are out here. Let's grab this one called Kid Stuff. And actually in Kid Stuff, I'll expand this a little bit more, we do have a black right here. If I click on that, drag and drop it in my swatches palette, it will add right into the swatches palette, and I can now use that. I may decide too, I want other colors, but I want this whole row of colors. In that case, I can grab the entire folder, drag and drop, and now the entire folder is in my swatches palette. Let's go ahead and choose black for now, and we can actually then fill in some of these areas where the path was not filled. And if I zoom out a little bit, we can go ahead and do the rest of them as well, but you kind of see what that does. Okay, so that's it for this one. Let's go ahead and save this for now. So Command S, And now we're going to go to our last one, Live Paint. In Live Paint, there's one more thing I want to show you about this, and that is one small problem we have with the basket. So let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit tighter on this. I'm going to go ahead and grab my Live Paint bucket, and with this one I'm going to go ahead and just select the basket, and this time I'm going to go to Object, Live Paint, Make, and now with the Paint Bucket tool I can go in and start coloring in my basket. Let's say I want my basket rim to be a dark brown. Let's find our dark brown here. And I'll click the dark brown all around the edge of the basket. And notice what just happened. This all filled in. I'm going to go to a light brown for the basket itself. And if I click on this, I have a problem. My problem is that there is a gap here that will not fill in. If whatever color I click here, it's going to be the same as here. So I need to fix that gap. The way I do that is with this object selected, I go up to Object, Live Paint, Gap Options. Slide that up just a little bit. I'm going to click on Gap Detection, and notice it turned red down here. That's because the small gaps are actually working. It's going to fill those gaps in with paths. So if I click Close Gaps with Path, yes. And now I go ahead and get my paint bucket, go back out to that dark brown. It now fills in. Go ahead and finish coloring in the rest of the fruit basket, and you can pick whatever colors you want to use for your fruit. You can go traditional. You don't have to go traditional, but just have some fun filling in the colors of all the fruit. And once you're done, go ahead and save and turn that in as well. Good. Command S and save. And we'll close that. Once you're done filling in the fruit basket, you can go back in and fill in the colors of the Space Shuttle. And that's basically it for this project. Have fun playing around with Live Trace and Live Paint. We'll see you in the next episode.